without further ado, Kai, hello.
Dale, thank you so much indeed for this opportunity, and hello to all you lovely people out there watching. It's good to see you. As kindly introduced, I am author of the Teen Toolbox. I am creator of a podcast called Parent Toolbox, and it is really my mission to help you parents so that you can support your children, your kids, because together we need to build a mentally healthier and happier generation of young people. So how cool is that? So you really are in the right place. And of course you're in the right place because you've been hanging around here for the last sort of day and a half. And but if you've got teenagers, also I am welcoming in any teenagers. You actually might like this because I'm on your side, guys. I think you get a bad press. So yeah, let's sort of just get on. But you're in the right place if you've got teenagers, if you are a teenager. And you know what? There seems to be a hell of a lot of shouting going on at home. Maybe you parents are feeling as though you're juggling things badly. I know that feeling. Maybe you feel as though you're struggling. Maybe you feel as though your child might be struggling. I say here that there's too much shouting. What's equally bad and quite disturbing for parents when there's absolute silence and we have no idea what's going on at all. So over the next I would say 30, 40 minutes, you have my undivided attention, and I hope I have percentage of yours as well. So thank you. And what we're really going to cover is how parents can understand your teens better, because, it's a different world than when we were growing up. I know that, but also how you can learn to communicate with them better, because it's sometimes a different language, and parents just need to make that adjustment. And I think the problem starts when we've got teenagers and we go, do you know what, seriously, I thought I would have this parenting lark down to, at least some semblance of order now, because I've been doing it for long enough. But suddenly when we get a teenager into the mix, the hormones start popping and the goalposts change hugely. In fact, not only might the goalposts change, we could be playing on a different pitch altogether. If everything swapped sides and we don't actually know what we're dealing with, so we have to adapt. And this is where the problems start, because when we are struggling to adapt, and where our children, our kids, and I will talk about it in a minute, but our teenagers are changing. They are, their goalposts have changed, their teams have changed. They might be playing a totally different ball for all we know. And because of this, they are struggling. And because of this, they start pushing our buttons, because it's their job, because that's what happens, because that's what having teenagers in the house does. And we have to learn to accept that, which is fine, but it's I think we've as parents, we've had an old way of thinking, as in, this used to work and why isn't it working now? So let's squeeze that teenager into that that little hole that they are meant to be in, or that that little pigeonhole, and it doesn't always work. And that's why they push our buttons, because they're actually not wanting to be so restricted. They do question our authority. Bravo if they do. I mean, that is success. And I'll tell you why, because teenagers are developing, they are learning. Their sanctuary should be home, where they are learning about relationships, where they are learning to form their own opinions. And what else can you do when you're forming new opinions, when you're getting a different perspective on life, to start questioning and to start voicing what you've got to say, what you are thinking, what you are feeling, what you are fearing, and it's that's how, by kicking our tires, by pushing our buttons, our teenagers work out, oh yeah, well that worked, oh no, that didn't work, that didn't sound right. And they are using us as a sounding board. And so it's not really knocking authority, it's actually working out where they fit in. And the majority of teenagers are struggling to work out where they fit in this world, where they, what they stand for, what their beliefs are. And so they're trying to learn it all, especially now when we're all in lockdown life. they are trapped at home. And so what we need to do is to accommodate that. By doing the authoritarian approach, it used to work. I do remember the very first time, I sort of sent my son Jack to the naughty corner, and he just looked at me and went, no, admittedly, he wasn't a teenager, but, and it was suddenly he was questioning my authority, and he suddenly realized that actually I'm not going to do what mum says the whole time. And, the older they get, the more they do that. And the older they get, the sort of bigger the repercussions. So really, the naughty step changes into curfews and smoking and sort of drugs and sex and all this other stuff that are quite meaty for us to have to deal with. So when they question our authority, why? Because I said so, doesn't work any longer. And you know what? It annoys the heck out of me. It annoys the heck out of me when I hear parents go, oh, well, they've just got to do as I say. Ooh. And when I hear, don't argue, just do as I say. Just because I said so. It just isn't right. And invariably now, your teenagers' responses are going to be sighs and eye rollings and, all the slamming of doors. And, I'm presuming that, many of you are nodding and going, yeah, that's just what's happening in my house. They're answering back. They're questioning my authority. And if we don't acknowledge that, it's going to cause problems. But because I said so, I tell you what, it serves us right. I can bet my bottom dollar you've used it many times. I have as a parent. Well, I can't any longer because of the eye rolling and the door slamming. And it does. It serves us right. It's to me, it's just rather lazy. Now, it doesn't really hold any water. A 4-year-old, you could probably get away with it. 14, no. 24, hell no. And so it is up to us to start doing something differently. It's up to us to understanding we're not dealing with little kids anymore. We are not the boss of them. In the olden days, we used to be able to manage them. And quite rightly so, because our teenagers are turning into young adults. So rather than managing them, I suggest we start mentoring them. Because I said so really means I've run out of ideas and I don't know how to explain what I mean. And it could be, oh, for God's sake, just get it done because it's going to be quicker doing it my way. And also it could mean, flip's sake, well, I've no idea what else I'm doing anyway. And that's all understandable for parents. But I think the thing is when we start mentoring our kids and we start sort of treating them as equals, and some parents go, scoff, at flip's sake, treat my teenager as an equal to me. You're having a laugh, aren't you? Well, I tell you what, when you do start, it makes life a lot easier. Because we are creating the young adults of the future. And so just by having that authoritarian diktat ain't going to hold any water. Believe me, been there, done that, have a number of other T-shirts. And so it's a matter of trying to acknowledge who we've got standing in front of us. Because when we impose our rules and our beliefs on them, it implies that you know best. And you did when you were managing, but not necessarily when you're mentoring. Because every person is different. You'll acknowledge if you've got more than one child, every child is different. I mean, the goalposts change when, you start getting more than one child, because when you did it one way, you thought it worked okay. And then suddenly that sort of methodology doesn't work for child number 2, 3, 4, or whatever. So you don't necessarily know best. Maybe, yes, when you were nurturing them and keeping them safe and feeding them and all that loveliness when they were little. But as they grow, we need to grow with them. And just, please let me take a slurp before I dry out. For the first 7 years of their life, our children are in sort of, I guess, survival mode. And so they are wired to stay close to us. They are wired to cling to mum, dad, parents, carers, or whoever. And they learn their beliefs, their values, their likes and dislikes from you. That's how it happens. So if you've got a just think of it, an anxiety or a phobia of spiders, probably the likelihood is that you've got a young child that is wary of spiders as well. That just sort of, you know, that nearly goes without saying, because they absorb what is going on. They absorb what's going on around you. So the good thing about this is that you have built really firm foundations, one hopes, of self-respect and of what's right, you know, the right from wrong. And it's those very, very firm family values that you have built in with your children. And that is what is forming the bedrock of their beliefs and, you know, and their limiting beliefs. Development is also influenced by past events and their understandings. So as they sort of, you know, get a little bit older, they become sort of slightly more open to other people's points of view. So that's why their friendship groups start getting sort of quite, you know, well, very important, especially by the time they reach teenage years. But past events will affect kids. You know, sort of say if your child was, I don't know, scared by a dog at the age of 4, the likelihood is that they are going to be very wary of dogs in the future. So everything that is sort of has shaped you know, your kids' behaviors goes way, way back to early childhood. And now it's all changed. Now our children are being wired for independence. They are being wired to leave the, you know, to fly the nest. I mean, but sort of in tribal times, between the ages of 12 and 15, they were wired to become sort of sexually active. A little bit later, they were wired to sort of, you know, sort of find a mate and sort of live somewhere else in the village or leave the village altogether. The thing is, with society nowadays, what's happened is that they are here under the same roof, especially at the minute with you know, with the coronavirus. Many teens are under the same roof, probably sort of you know, it not from their own volition. Many of them might want to have left by now, certainly inside, certainly emotionally, and they are wired to be leaving. And that's why, especially from mum, sons are sort of pulling away from parents, not just because they want to. Many of them don't understand what's going on. Many of them don't understand that this is actually biology. So physically, young men are beginning to feel we're really not wanting to be in presence of their mums, and they are unable to decipher and to work out what on earth's going on in their head, and to find out, well, why is this happening? They don't know. I mean, one young man sort of said to me, I sort of said, well, what's going on here? I said, I have no idea. He said, my head feels like a sort of 6-lane motorway and all the cars are going in the wrong direction. And he just sort of said, it just, I don't know what it is, but it feels scary, because our kids' brains, having been wired for security and for safety, to stay with, you know, mum and dad in the early days, they are now wired to leave the nest. And so they've actually, and to find a mate. And so actually they are, their behavior is becoming a lot more primitive, which probably rings many, many bells. Why are they suddenly being irrational? Why are they suddenly doing things that is sort of more risky? Why are they doing, you know, sort of behavior that seems totally alien to them? And that's because the prefrontal cortex is beginning to shift. It's beginning to change. Their brain is being rewired. So it's really quite hard for kids to understand what's going on, because they don't know, because their head's a bag of blimmin' hormones. And so it's up to us to be slightly more open to that. It's up to us as parents to be slightly more accommodating, to be slightly more wary that we've got sort of, it's as I said, it's a sort of bag of hormones. It's a bit of a mess going on, and our kids don't understand that. And so we need to be at the front of, we need to be at the helm of our ship. We need to be able to guide them and navigate them through these uncharted waters of adolescence, because they have no idea what's going on, because there's so many rewirings. The neuroplasticity in their brain is all over the shop at the minute. And so when they start doing something wrong, when they start sort of making mad decisions, when they sort of start kicking our tires, pressing our buttons, it doesn't really help if we turn around and say, you've got to do it this way because I said so. It doesn't really help if we are barking orders the whole time and expecting them to jump to our tune, because they're wired not to. And part of them is full of the guilt of not sort of doing as they've always done. And, you know, why is it that I can't stand the sight of my own mother because I know she's trying to be nice to me? Why is it that I don't want to go fishing with my dad because I used to, but really, nah, I'd rather be playing the Xbox with my mates? Why is it, you know, why are all these things happening? And why are they blooming well telling me what to do? I'm an adult, come on. I know my own mind now. And that's the thing. That's the thing, is the fact that our children's minds are developing and we need to support them in that. So barking orders with respect doesn't really help. It's not going to come down terribly well. And then I understand your objections. I understand that, yeah, but Kai, hang on a minute. You know, our kids have got to learn right from wrong. Well, yeah, they do. And that's what the first 7 years were all about. That's what the donkey worked when they were little. That's what, you know, now we don't do snatching in this house. That's what now we don't do sort of horrid words in this house. Now we talk about sharing and being kind to others. And that's where we were building our foundations. This doesn't go out the window. This doesn't get forgotten now that our children are teenagers. And that's what so many parents sort of say when they come out the other side of the adolescent years. Oh my gosh, they're quite nice adults. You know, one mum sort of said to me, and I've got an exercise for you later, which is absolutely gold. And she just sort of said, oh my goodness, should I have started talking to my son more? He's really quite nice. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and that's because you've built in all the sort of groundwork. You've done all your stuff. You know, you've taught them right from wrong. And then there's the other objection. No, but you see, you don't understand. They don't have life experience like I do. I know the mistakes. I've been around the block. I don't want them making the same mistakes that I did. Yeah. But how are we going to learn? Seriously. I mean, if you think of two sides of a coin, there's one side which is success. The other side has to be fail, because they complement each other. Failure is part of success. So we do try and mollycoddle our kids and wrap them up in cotton wool. But actually, when things are going swimmingly in life, come on, I mean, you know, it's like anything. We only really learn when we get friction. We only learn when we're put up against it. When things are going swimmingly, you just really, lessons aren't really learned that way. Some parents have said to me, no, but you see, I'm in charge. You know, it's my house, my rules. If that's you as a parent, how's that working out for you? Because it doesn't really cut it any longer. And I think, and I'll sort of speak a little bit later, we need to think that we're part of a team. Your family is a team unit, and everyone is a player, so that you don't have to stand and bark orders from the sideline, because so once you start gelling together, everyone knows what their roles are, everyone knows where they fit in, and everyone knows that they have got a part to play in the family team that is yours. And then other parents will go, well, you see, I know what I'm doing here. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, yeah. But it's different times now. It's very different times. Our kids are growing up in an environment that is so, so different to the environment when we were young. You know, and they now have, flip sake, you know, climate change to worry about. They now have gun and knife crime to worry about, self-harm and depression, coronavirus, gender fluidity, all these things that never even existed when we were young, or if they did, it was sort of usually someone else's issue to deal with. So it's very, very different. And yet, well, okay, well, if I just let my child loose and let them get on with it, they're going to fail and fall over and everything's, you know, I want them, yes, to think on their feet. I want them to develop a mind of their own. They've got to become independent, but not under my roof, not whilst I'm the boss, not whilst they're, you know, not whilst we're doing lockdown, for goodness sake. Can we not just wait until all that's over? And I'd say, actually, no. Now is a fantastic opportunity to reconnect with your child at their level. You know, and it gives us the opportunity to start maybe building bridges if they had been sort of burnt or sort of knocked down or whatever. But yes, we are building young adults for the future. Of course we are. And so we need to allow them to develop, to form their own opinions, to question our authority. We need to acknowledge what's going on in their head so that we can support them. And the safest place to do that is in the family home. So if they get it wrong and screw up, they're not going to have all their mates are going, they are in a safe place. They do, you know, we need to create a sanctuary of our home for our kids so that they feel safe and nurtured, and there's no judgment, and that they are okay to make mistakes. They are okay to make a fool of themselves so that they can practice, so they're a bit more equipped to go into the big wide world. Because yes, we all have our child's best interests at heart. And I'm, you know, I would say without an exception, each and every one of you, because that's why you're blimmin' well watching this summit, isn't it? Is to work out what you can do a little bit differently. We do want to keep them safe, but we have to talk about sex and drugs and suicide and smoking and all that stuff. And yes, they might be awkward conversations. And yes, your child might go, oh, for God's sake, I've heard all about it. And no, I know all about that. I don't want. But, you know, if we think about online porn and sort of things like that, yes, it could be curlingly embarrassing. And yes, they might know the sort of ins and outs, excuse the pun, of sex. But do they know about consent? And do they know about sort of, you know, being able to respect one another? And do they know about sort of, you know, being able to say no, and that they have the power to use their own voice? Because we need to teach that. We need to teach kids that sex is all, it's not like it appears on the screen. And it's about relationships and love and respect. And they might go, yeah, yada, yada, yada. But it has to be instilled in them to respect themselves and to respect others. And yes, we want to keep them out of trouble. But sometimes by making the mistakes and by realizing that actions do indeed have consequences, as I said, that's how they learn. That's how they grow. And to avoid your childhood mistakes, not a mission. They're going to make their own ones. They're going to make new mistakes. They're going to do something very, very different to you, which is natural. And it's a different world. So our experiences, as I said, are totally redundant, let's face it. Because if you even think about how social media's come on, if you think about they've got technology in their back pocket. My only form of communication was a telephone on the hall table with a really long lead. And I used to sit on the stairs for 3 hours. So look how different that is. But we have to adapt. And without adapting, this is when the problems start. We disconnect from our kids because they just don't, well, you know, what do you know? You came out with the art, for goodness sake, mother. You don't know anything about my world. You don't know what's going on. You're not even asking about what's going on in my world. You don't even know who my best mates are. You don't know what my dreams are about where I want to go to uni. You don't even know that I don't want to go to uni. You don't even know that I'd rather do physics as opposed to maths. You don't, you know. And so this is where the resentment builds in, is that if we do not know what is going on, and whatever age, you might be watching this and your child, you know, you think, oh, thank God for that, because my child isn't a teenager. Well, I tell you what, you should be starting now, in fairness, because if you have got, for argument's sake, let's say a 5-year-old who is sitting there and going, Mum, I want to tell you about my favorite pizza topping. All right, yeah. And you're going, yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, that's really interesting. And if you are not listening about the small stuff, which, let's face it, is their big stuff at 5, pizza toppings are hugely important. If you aren't listening to that now, you are training your child that you are not available for them. So when you're sitting there at sort of 15 with a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old who either smells of smoke or, you know, there's been sort of, you know, is high or is doing, you know that they're watching online porn, why the heck should they be listening and speaking to you if you have trained them that you are not prepared to listen to their big stuff at the age of 5? Why are they going to start speaking to you when indeed the goalposts have changed and the problems have got bigger? So the thing is that we need to nurture them and be available to them as often as possible so that we don't have the secrecy and the resentment that's building up in many, many homes at the minute. 25% of 16 to 21-year-olds said, yeah, I regularly argue with my mum. I think that is rather a low number, actually, truth be told. And 16% said that they argued with their dads. Oh, my God. But the upside is that given the opportunity, these same people said, yeah, I also confide in my mum. 67% in their mums and 50% said that they confided in their dads. Why? Because you're their role model. Why? Because they want your attention, because even deep down, there's a little 5-year-old in there somewhere wanting your attention, wanting your guidance, wanting your appreciation, and we need to provide it for them. Don't worry, arguing does not mean a bad relationship. Arguing actually helps your child remember the right from wrong. It helps your child understand that, you know, sort of what the basics are. It helps them know that you've got their back. It helps them know that there is somewhere that loves them unconditionally, even though you keep on shouting at them, telling them to pick their towel off the floor. They know that already. Arguments, as long as they're not total slanging matches, but to and fro attitude means that there is communication. We can improve it. And imagine if it was all Pollyanna and like the Waltons. Well, it's never going to be like the Waltons, really, is it? Because that was then and this is now. But I tell you what, a lot of it comes when you are able to change and shift your attitudes and realize that it is your role really to mentor rather than manage, that you have shifted. So maybe now you can look at yourself as, instead of being the boss, maybe being the coach and collaborating and talking with your child. Right, okay, well, thanks for nagging me for half an hour, Kai. What the heck do I do? Well, be patient, because there is rewiring going on up here in your child's brain. Your child's brain is a work in progress. Wait for it. Their prefrontal cortex doesn't stop. For young women, their prefrontal cortex sort of finishes development in early 20s. For young men, it's mid to late 20s. And I'm witnessing this. I've got a 25-year-old daughter and a 27-year-old son. And they are sort of just coming out the other side. And yes, they are still trying to find out who they are, what they stand for, where they fit in. And this is still happening. It's only till the mid-30s, seriously, that we are able to sit down and go, yeah, this is me. I'm sort of knowing where I'm coming from now. So as a parent, if you think of that child with a head full of, one child said, I've got a head full of Weetabix. It just feels like that. Nothing can get through. And if you've got that child with a brain like a 6-lane motorway with cars all over the place, if we remember that actually that's what we're dealing with, then it's easier for us to understand the chaos that's going on in their head, that they're not trying to be manipulative little so-and-sos. They're just trying to work the heck out what's going on and they get some peace in their head. So let's start validating their feelings. If you've got a teenager now who should have been either, or a young, sort of a student who should have been taking exams, who should have been graduating either from school, college, uni, or whatever, they have had that carpet whipped out from underneath. And it sucks. For the last 2, 3, 4 years, they've been told, oh my God, the last year's fantastic. Just you wait, you're graduating. It's all so exciting. And you have your prom and you have your this and all the parties and da-da-da-da. And now they can't even take exams, most of them. All that hard work, well, some of them, let's face it, will be breathing a sigh of relief. I totally get that. But others will not. Others will be struggling and they're going, this is appalling. I just, everything that I was building up towards has been whipped away. And not only that, with respect, they're stuck under the same roof as you, which is not really where they want to be, and they're missing their tribe. I tell you what, I'd be pretty unimpressed as well. So rather than, oh, get over it, it'll be fine. Lockdown will be over soon and you'll be able to get out. No. They have been robbed of that part of their future that was hopefully, that was meant to be coming now, was meant to be happening now. It was my daughter's 25th birthday yesterday. And I said, oh, hi. So I certainly wasn't expecting to do this on my 25th. And I get it. And no amount of, oh, it's all right, you've just got me, Granny, and the rest of the family singing happy birthday to you. Well, that's no consolation, I can tell you. Yeah. So actually we have to acknowledge, if someone sort of said to you, oh, you'll be fine, forget everybody, oh, you'll be fine. That's not much fun. Validation says, I hear you. Validation says, your opinion matters. And that's what teenagers need at the minute. We need to respect their independence. We need to respect that they really don't want to be here at all. And that's all right. It's not that they don't like being with you. It's just not 100% of the time. They're trying to look to see where they can spread their wings, and it's up to us to support them in that. So start talking to them. Start collaborating with them. Because when we start, as individuals, anyone, whatever age, we want to feel, in the family unit especially, we want to feel loved, understood, and respected. So when parents start asking their children's opinions, when parents start saying, what do you think about this? When parents start saying, what do you need? How can I support you? Tell me what's going on in your head. That is saying, I hear you. You are no longer you are more an equal now. And your opinion does matter, because I tell you what, in our day, in my day, children should be seen and not heard. Well, that didn't work out very well. And there's a hell of a lot of adults walking around with rather a lot of emotional baggage because of that. And so we are right in acknowledging that our children have a say in their own future. We are right in acknowledging that children have opinions in where they want to go. And it is time for us to acknowledge that, no, children, it is not do as I say. It is not my way or the highway. It's not because I said so. It's sort of, what do you think, and how can we move on here? And that's when we start talking to our kids and collaborating with them. I think there's page 104 in my book is all about this. It's all about collaborating with your child and helping them make the right decisions and consulting them and going, that really didn't turn out so well. What do you think we could do, or you could do better next time? And helping them create that neuroplasticity in their head that they need to equip them in the future to make better decisions. Because, yeah, there are going to be mistakes. Of course, there are going to be mistakes. We need mistakes. I remember when I was taking my driving test, or no, when I just started driving lessons. Oh, Mum, I need to borrow the car, please, because, you know, I need to take some mates out for a drive. And it was basically, no, love, you've only had 2 driving lessons, so let's wait a while. I kicked off like merry hell. And so my mum decided, stupidly against her better judgments, to let me take the car. Well, about half an hour later, she got a phone call. Me, basically, I had decided, because I was too cool for school, I had decided to take someone's gatepost at 3rd gear at about 45 miles an hour. Well, I really, really learned by that mistake. And still to this day, I'm really, really concerned about what's happening on the left-hand side of the car, because it still is imprinted. So we need to learn. We need to make mistakes, because if we don't make mistakes, then yeah, it's, as I always say, and as Jack Canfield so wisely said, there is no such thing as failure. It's only feedback. And the thing is that we learn from that feedback. And if we don't, it's a blimmin' mistake. I mean, you know, woe betide you. Because if you do not learn from your mistakes, then, well, you deserve everything you get. But also remember that your child is the expert. Your child really is. They know what makes their heart sing. They know, they have opinions on where they want to go. They might want to start a band. And how cool is that if they want to, rather than doing, I don't know, all the sciences to get a job for life? That's not the way it works nowadays. They know where they're headed. I mean, for flip's sake, how can we advise our children in careers or anything like that? Because it's a different world. I mean, I've got, you know, in fact, an example. My daughter qualified, she got a first in hospitality 2 years ago. And so we were going, oh my God, this is fantastic. Shove her into the hospitality line, because that's clearly what she's good at. I'm just going, no, I do not want to be treated like shit by people like this. No, I'm not going to do it. And so she made the decision that she was going into HR. So there was husband and I rocking in the corner going, for flip's sake, she's doing this all wrong. She's doing this all wrong, because she's got the qualifications. She's set up for hospitality. And she made the choice, no thanks. And she stuck to her guns. She now, even though she's furloughed at the minute, has got a really good job in HR when, joke's on us, the hospitality industry is really struggling at the minute. So we have to allow our and you know what, even if she had gone and made a mistake and she hadn't enjoyed what she was doing, our kids are going to have about 17, 18 jobs in their lifetimes, apparently. So it doesn't matter if they take a slightly more circuitous route. And it's that old adage, oh, as long as they're happy, then that's fine. Well, yeah, great. And that is exactly as it should be. But how do we know that they're happy unless we listen to them, unless we hear their opinions, unless we know what's going on, unless we sort of sit down and go, okay, so tell me about HR then, because I'd rather you did hospitality because you're clearly good at it. But we have to allow them to keep going and taking their own path, and it's better that we are by their side rather than 25 paces ahead, because they'll go for a different course, a different route, and might leave us all together. So our kids seldom need a good talking to rather than a good listening to. One slurp and I'll give you this exercise. The thing is that it's very, very hard to try and get a teenager to open up, especially if they are used to making their own decisions, or especially if they are used to not communicating with you. So I've got this exercise, and it's basically 3 questions to ask your uncommunicative teen. And it really, really works. The first question is, what is your number? And what you have to do is you have to explain this exercise to your teen, because they'll still go, oh God, yeah, whatever. But actually, once they get to grips with it, it's absolutely class. So what is your number? And really, on a scale of 1 to 10, we are trying to work out how they're feeling. 1 being, really dark, possibly suicidal thoughts, don't know where I'm going, really, really struggling. 2, 10, absolutely fine, mother, thank you very much, leave me alone, I'm on the crest of a wave and I don't need interference. Absolutely wonderful. And really what happens is that you will start gaining an idea of where your child sits on this scale. It's an easy one for them to understand, a rating of 1 to 10. I suggest you only use this exercise once a day, because otherwise it's, oh, seriously, will you just shut up and leave me alone? So what happens is that you start, over the days, you start getting an understanding of where your child sits on this scale. Now, one child's 4 might be, very, very different to another child's 4. So don't start comparing them and go, oh my God, sort of so-and-so's number 7 and the other one's 4. What am I going to do? Because you'll work out, do not compare. You'll work out when they're having dips and when they're having highs and lows. And it's a good early warning system. The second question is, what is your word? And this is for you to have one describing word for how your child is feeling at the minute. It could be happy, it could be optimistic, it could be hopeful, it could be excited, it could be blah, 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 blah. Do you know what I mean? Or it could be angry, frustrated, betrayed, negative, neglected, whatever. And it helps you understand where they are on this scale. What it also helps is for your child to start creating and developing their own emotional vocabulary, because many kids are not terribly good. I mean, most of them will just come out with angry. And you go, well, is that the same angry as yesterday? Oh, no, there's a different angry. Okay, well, what is it? Oh, well, actually, it could just be hangry. Or it could just be, it could be jealous. It could be frustrated. It could be fearful, But it's only when they start unpicking that they can start sort of working out how they're actually feeling. Don't accept fine and crap, because they're not very descriptive words. But, so those 2 words get you an idea of where they are. And then the third one, which parents, you have to abide by these rules, is, do you want to talk? And 95% of the time you'll get no, you're all right, thanks. Oh, no, absolutely not. No, I'm fine. No. But what that says is, I'm here for you when you need me. And so what you might then sort of get is, yeah, I do. And don't pounce on it. Don't go, oh, I told you, I knew, Rich, I knew there was something wrong with them. They want to talk to me now. No. Just go, oh, okay, that's cool. So is now a good time? Or should we take the dog for a walk? Or do you want to go for a drive? Or do you want to help me with the cooking? And just try and find out, because it will have taken them a long time to get their head sorted. Or maybe it's listen, go and get your head sorted and come back to me when you're ready. I'm here whenever you are. Because what this starts saying to the kids is, oh my God, I'm not going to get the Spanish Inquisition every single time I walk into the room any longer. And so one mum was saying, oh my God, my kids are now spending more time in the downstairs and not in their room. And I'm going, yes, because you're not sitting there looking really needy going, please just tell me what's wrong, because I can tell you're not quite right, because kids do not want that. So just use that. What's your number? What's your word? And do you want to talk? And it is amazing how it opens up the lines of communication for you and your family. And it gives you, your teenagers, the opportunity to start building a relationship with you, but on their terms. And that's the gold. So if you are wanting to hear a little bit more from yours truly, get your phone out and do that. And I've got a podcast that covers many of the issues that we're talking about. And also, if you need to dig a bit deeper, if you want to hear more about me, then give me a call, and we can you can book a call through this QR code, and we can just sort of see how I can best support you. I've got books and online courses and stuff, but yeah, get in touch if that's something that interests you. So I hope that helped.
Wow. Hey.
So I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your beautiful face. There we are.
Hello. Oh my goodness me, that was so amazing that you've got the chat has lit up over here. We've got people as young as 14 on here, and
oh, good.
Yeah, which is wonderful. It'd be really cool. I really want to show you everything. We've got loads of time. In fact, it's not going to be about me. I have all the questions in the entire world. I loved how gentle that was, but I also loved how understanding you are and authentic, because you've been there. You still are a mom. You're not not a mom anymore, but you've been a teen mom, if that makes sense. Sorry, I've got teeth.
Yes.
So
I know what you mean.
It's authentic, and you know the amount of vigor you had delivering what you were saying, and it all makes sense. It all makes sense, and sometimes we know that, but sometimes what we do is, as apes, we allow our emotions to ride away with us. And I'm going to say that and link onto a lady who put a post on here, and she's absolutely amazing. If I can find it, it's cut off. Basically, it was from Becky, and it can only such amount of comments on here, unfortunately. Becky said, oh no, here we go. So Becky, can you see this, Kai?
Yes, normally when
So this is to her children that are not teens. They are below the age of 12. And it's when they keep asking. I think this has got something to do with the infernal battle between Parent and Fortnite, I believe, or the computer games are available.
Yes, and I think the thing is, this goes back to collaboration, because let's face it, adolescence doesn't start at sort of 13 on the 13th birthday. Adolescence starts, or puberty, let's say, starts a lot earlier than that, and children do know best. I think, for God's sake, Mum, I'm nearly an adult. I know exactly what I'm doing, and that's fine. And this is why we need to start guiding them, but we also need to get them to buy in, not in a bad way, but to be part of what's going on, to be part of the decisions that are being made. Because when we start, even if it's a revision timetable, even if it's getting a social media contract written out, the thing is, and seriously, Becky, I would suggest, if you don't have one, try that, because it's a matter of sitting down and writing stuff with you and your child and go, so now what do you think would be sensible to do? How many hours, or how do you think we should break this down on a daily or weekly basis? And they might go, 5 hours a day. And you're right, well, okay, I was thinking more along the lines of half an hour to an hour. So we're going to have to start collaborating and cooperating and making compromises here. So how does 2.5 hours a day sound? But we'll break it up, so you've got to take breaks in between. And then, all right, let's see how that goes. But write it down, even sign it, and shove it on the fridge, so that when you start having the arguments of, mum, then what I would suggest is look at the contract. Look at the contract. Don't even enter into discussion, because we've had that discussion when everyone was rational. So it's, please look at the contract. Please look at the contract. And if we need to revise it, we shall do so tomorrow afternoon. But please look at the contract. And then what they sort of tend to do is, oh, yeah, I did say that. And so because they've collaborated, they're more, in the decision, they're more likely to abide by, because they were part of, rather than just because I said so. So that might be worth bearing in mind.
That's beautiful. I love that so much. Quick question I'm going to add to that, actually, with another question. What if they breach the contract, and should a parent breach the contract accidentally on purpose to take responsibility and teach accountability with that? Is there, and I don't really like the word sanction, but breach of contract with that, what's the next phase that might lead on?
what part of the foundations of family life and life is actions have consequences. So what I would suggest is preempt it. And when you're writing the contract or when you're discussing all this, what happens when it goes belly up? What happens when, you know, this will happen? What happens if you're just getting to the next level and it's about 5 minutes away? What do you think we should do when? And so it'll be the, you know, sort of, do you think a good consequence will be, I'll take your phone off for a fortnight? No. Okay, well, what do you think the consequences will be? Or like, you know, and so therefore the consequence has already, or the, you know, the discipline or the sanction or whatever has already been built in. So that's also playing on their mind, is that what do I, you know, because rather than mum or dad having to think of the sanction there and then on the, you know, preempt that decision and work it out, you know, sort of ahead of time, and let the child know, because, you know, if they, well, I mean, grounding someone ain't going to help at the minute, is it? But there will be other, there will be other sanctions that are equally, you know, whether or not it's allowance, whether or not it's, you're now going to have to do the laundry for 10 days. I don't know what points, and have that preempted already.
Yeah, perfect. And I completely agree with that, and see how that would work.
Yes, it's always, we're always going to, you know, this is what happens. It's not going to go according to plan, but it's a sort of, it morphs. It's a teething process, and that's how we start working out. Right. Well, okay, the contract or the agreement or whatever it is becomes slightly more robust.
Of course, yes. And we're not going to be talking about how to calm yourself down, because we did that yesterday with Callum and a few other people. But I've got a girl on here who is Charlie, she's 14, and a girl on here called Megan, who is 19 or 18, I think 18. And she might tell me off for not knowing that. And it's, I want to do kind of like a flip reverse. They've both in some way or another said, I want to show my mum this. My mum needs to see this. My da-da-da-da-da. So it's almost as if they're parenting themselves. What advice would you give to these girls at that age to be taken seriously, or to be respected, getting on the same page, singing from the same hymn sheet as their parents? Have you ever had that question before?
Yes, and there are a number of ways. It depends how disconnected the relationship is. If it's just a sort of mum or dad haven't quite woken up to the fact that they have a young adult in front of them and still think they're dealing with a 6-year-old, then that's a time to maybe sort of sit down and go, do you know what? I was watching this summit today, and then sort of come into it this way. I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z, or I'm really sort of, I was really wondering that, you know, I'm confused about what's going on in my head and I don't quite know how to verbalize it. Can you help me? And what I would ask as the young person is to ask their parents for support, whether or not it's just, can we sort of, you know, literally, can we sit down for half an hour sometimes, or will you bake cookies with me, or can we take the dog for a walk? And just, if your parents got any sense of sort of know-how, they'll go, well, hang along a minute, this isn't normal, something is going on here and my child wants to talk. And I would use the summit as an example and go, this woman was talking crap and this guy was talking a lot of sense, and that guy over there said something I didn't agree with, and just open it up. You know, it's a bit like when we are adults and it's trying to get our kids to, you know, if something comes on in EastEnders and we sort of go, oh, has that ever happened, or do you know what I mean? It's using real life to open up the conversation. But if you are really disconnected and you just don't know which way to turn, I would suggest writing a letter. And I would suggest sitting down, because what a letter does is it takes all the emotion out of it, and it takes all the confusion and the accusation and the blame and the whatever, and it gives the recipient the opportunity to read through it, digest it, collapse in a heap, weeping and wailing or getting really angry or whatever, but then a bit of reflection and going, oh, right, okay, okay, right, we need to do something about this. And so a letter takes away all the, it creates a more level playing field rather than we need to talk because you've got it wrong. And so it just allows people to process stuff in their own time without having to react immediately, which is obvious. Sometimes it puts people on the back foot.
Agreed, yeah, 100%. And just to add a tiny little decimal place on that would be, don't really expect your parents to have all the right answers or any answers at all. The very fact they're listening is great. And that's why we are a team, and that's why we need to learn from one another. Adults are never to, and this can be a problem because we don't like admitting it. I have to see as though I'm in charge, otherwise they'll, they'll sort of take sort of advantage. And no, the thing is come on, guys, we're all in this together. And the end result is happy kids and a happy family. And okay, if we need to take one for the team, or if we need to admit we're wrong, we're the grown-ups here. So let's just get over it and go, right, what is the intention here? And the intention is a happy family and well-adjusted kids. Yeah. So Megan and Charlie, I hope that makes sense. If not, Kai's giving you where we can find.
Oh, please get in touch. I'm all over Instagram and Facebook.
Do that now before we have to shoot off. Yes, so Kai is all over Instagram. She's on Facebook as well, and she's just giving you the little QR code. If you need to revisit this as well, then I think it was on minute 52.
Do you want me to put the QR code back?
Yeah, let's do that now. Let's get that on.
She said, "Oh, for what am I doing?"
Okay, I can just do this, so they can rewind it, and giving them responsibility. But this person here, if my phone would like to load slightly quicker than it is, give it a second. Just while that's happening, Melanie Lisa has just put on here, as a single parent in lockdown and a mental health worker. This session has been invaluable, so thank you very much, Kai.
Wonderful, thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's sometimes harder to apply your knowledge to your own children when personal emotions and relationships are involved. Yeah, massively, right? Yeah. There's oh sorry, wrong way around. So that's Kai's Instagram, guys and girls. There we go. So she looks like that. It's the real. That's the real one, just there. Kai Graham, easy peasy. So reach out to her. I'm sure I'll reach out to Kai. So I'm sure Kai would love to help out with why she wouldn't be doing what she's doing right now. So yes. Cool. Okay. No, I think we've nailed it. That's good. So just to finish off what Charlotte was saying, sometimes I feel my parents don't understand me, and I find it hard to talk to them about how I feel because if I tell them something, they don't get me.
And that's what I hear from 95% of kids, and that's why us parents need to get our act together, because it's a different world when we were young, and we think we know best, and sometimes we have no blimmin' idea. And it's hard to admit that, but Charlotte, get in touch if you want. But I would just open the lines of communication. Can I help you with cooking tea tonight? Can we just sort of, I don't know, can we go on the Xbox, or can we, and just start looking for spending pockets of time with your mum or your dad or whoever, so that you can start building a relationship with them, and then it feels less forced when you're doing something that you've got in common. And failing that, a letter is, it's a bit like a sort of, a bullseye shot. It gets there really fast, but it is very, very impactful, but sometimes it's over the top, if that makes sense. Yeah. But just, the majority of parents are wanting the very best, and it's approaching something with a slightly, rather than "you never listen to me," is approaching it with a slightly more mature, less emotive way of working. But just reach out to them, and they'll be there to, they might sort of do the, oh my gosh, they'll be full of guilt, but that's their job, so tell them to get over it and move forward.
Yes. And sometimes it quite be hard. Sometimes children will have the opposite of supportive parents, and even if a letter doesn't work, that's quite tough.
Well, I was a Childline volunteer for a very, very long time. Get in touch with Childline if that helps, because the people there will help you find adults that will support you. And whether or not it's me, whether or not it's a teacher, whether or not it's Granny, whether or not it's a youth worker, whether or not it's Dale, whoever it is, there, I promise you, there are people out there who will support you. So please, don't just, if your mum and dad aren't very receptive at the minute, there's a shed load of adults that want to help you.
And as well as that, I just want to really emphasize the fact that we've got to make sure that this person that you do reach out to is a very trusted adult, not somebody online, not somebody not somebody, and if that's the case, if you need to have met,
you need to know who they are, you need to have met them
100%. And they need to be, if anything, they need to be validated by other safe people that you know. Child line is very validated, it's very official. Is this, they go through strict measures of qualifying people to do that. But obviously, if you do feel alone, be wary, be very aware that you don't want to reach out to the next available adult, because that adult could be quite dangerous, and we don't want that to ever happen. We don't want that to happen. If they're requesting to meet up, that's a block. That's a no. And that's when you do need to reach out to a very, very responsible adult. But I just wanted to pre-frame that, because it's not easy, this life thing, is it, Kai? As a parent and as a child.
Listen, we're all still learning, and we all screw up, and you know, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, and it as they say, this too shall pass. So there are always ways to find alternatives and different ways of dealing with things, and people to support you as long as they're the right people.
Yes, and such a valuable, invaluable tour. Great class. I was so relaxed, and I was just like, oh, this is nice, and it's making so much sense. I'm ready to have a teenager now, I think.
Do you know what? I love teenagers. I think they are wonderful, funny, and empathic, and compassionate, and intelligent. I love teenagers. So I get on my soapbox. I get really pissed off with people that sort of give them a hard press. So
yeah. And they could be there. That's their own internal world, reflect onto other people. But that's for another talk, I believe. Kai, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It's a pocket of your Sunday. It's a Sunday, and you're spending it with us.
I know, but it's lockdown life, isn't it? For goodness sake, Sunday's the new Monday. Who cares? Yeah. And if we're making a difference, how cool is that? So
yes, and you've got a nice little thank you from Charlotte just there. So she started following
Charlotte. Good to see. Listen, if you need, well, Dale or I, we're here to support you. So give us a shout if you need to.
Wonderful. Thank you again so much. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'm going to crack on, and I'm going to thank you.
Yes, slightly over. Much love. Thanks so much, Dale.
Thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.